Welcome back to the podcast with your host, Samantha.
And I'm Alexa. We're here to light up your life.
Today on the podcast, we're joined by Bishop Kevin Foreman. He's a pastor, author, and entrepreneur who leads one of the most diverse churches in America. He's known for his bold and practical teachings that help people grow through challenges, embrace change, and step into their purpose.
Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you on today.
Glad to be here with you all. Excited to light up lives today. Excited about it.
Us
Oh,
too.
yes. So I know your ministry has impacted people worldwide. What inspired your calling to build such a diverse and global church?
Oh my goodness. You know what? Really, to be honest with you, it was really accident. It was something that I really stumbled into. For me, sort of the joke is I came out of my mom's room with a Bible and a briefcase. And so I came out, I was just a different type of kid. I was drawn to different things. I had this affinity towards business, this affinity towards spiritual things that was just different than what a lot of, other kids my age would have and what they were into. And so, I got into ministry at 12, started playing drums. And the only reason I got a drum set is because a friend of mine, he and I were very competitive. He got a drum set. I was like, well, I want a drum set too. Now, my mom said, well, you played the trombone, you didn't like that. Saxophone, you didn't like that. Trumpet, you didn't like that. Why are you going to stick with the drums? I said, I don't know, but Justin got one. I got to get one. So I got a drum set. And I actually started learning how to play drums by watching the drummer at church. Now, I didn't know he was a left-handed drummer. So left-handed drummers typically play like this. They got the hi-hats in one hand and they got the snare in the other hand. I'm right-handed. But I learned how to play like a left-handed drummer. So the first time I was ever around another professional drummer, he was like, oh, so you're left-handed? I said, no, I'm right-handed. He said, so why do you play like that? I said, that's just the way I learned how to play. Got into that, and that turned into keyboards and leading music, leading choirs, writing music. They inducted me into the Colorado Gospel Music Hall of Fame. I didn't even know we had one until I was inducted into it, which was a great honor. And years later, I've served an associate pastor simultaneously while doing a lot of things in business. Started my first business when I was 12 too. And by the time I was 19, or 21, excuse me, I built Denver's largest African-American owned real estate finance brokerage. So the largest Black-owned mortgage company in the area, and simultaneously while in ministry. And I was an associate pastor. I was happy with it. I was good. I liked being the number two and getting things done and making things happen. I was satisfied with that. But God had another plan. And you fast forward to 2006, we plant the church, which I was so resistant to planting a church. I did not want to start a church. And I think a lot of times what we're called to do, sometimes it may be something that you can do, but not necessarily something you desire to do. Sometimes a calling will seem like more of a burden, like more of a challenge than anything else. But nonetheless, said yes to that call, started the church, and the rest is really history in the making. We've seen over 12,000 professions of faith so far. This year alone, we're over 1,400, which is awesome, but so many more people need to be reached. Over 15,000 people connected in our database that call Harvest home in one way or another. So it's amazing to see what God has done. And I really feel like we're just getting started. We're just really step by step, day by day, really.
Wow, I love your energy, and that's such a fascinating story. You're also an author, too. Your book, Evolutionaries, talks about moving beyond survival into transformation. So, what does it mean to truly embrace evolution in our lives?
Yeah, that's really good. Evolution, I think, is what God is doing in us all. Revolution just means change, but it doesn't always mean change for the better. Change just means things are different, but that doesn't mean that things are better. Evolution is the one type of change where things are always going forward and can never go back. Think about a butterfly. Starts as small as a sesame seed on a sesame seed bun, stage one. Stage two grows to 100 times its size. And that's when we're normally used to seeing the caterpillar. But then when you get to stage three, something crazy happens. It goes into a chrysalis. And it is now either underground or behind the leaf for as little as 2 weeks, as much as 2 years, often predicated based on how big the butterfly is going to be. So the bigger your hiding season or your underground season or your overlooked season or your forgotten about season, that typically means the larger that butterfly is going to be. Out of stage three, that struggles out of that cocoon, but it has something that it didn't have in stage two. Stage two, it used to crawl. In its fourth and final stage, it's going to fly. So stage three, it's developing wings. It's developing antenna that it didn't have before. And so I think when you talk about really embracing evolution, it's embracing all of the seasons of life And, sometimes people will say, this is my season. Well, every season is your season. The good ones, the bad ones, the ups, the downs, the victories, the valleys, the mountains, the low places, all of that really is your season. And embracing that simply means the same God that was with me stage one is the same God that's with me stage three, stage four. The same principles I walked by stage one, same principles I walked by stage four.
Well, I absolutely love that analogy. And I think in a lot of ways you can think about it that when you're in that cocoon stage, it's almost like taking a step back, right? You were able to crawl, but now it feels like you're taking a step back, but you're just really getting ready for that next thing. And so the next thing is flying. And so how amazing is that? I think that's a powerful reminder that when it feels like you're taking a step back, really in reality, you actually might be propelling forward. And so
Exactly.
I love that analogy. I think I'm going to be using it in the future.
Yeah, take it.
Might be
Take it.
doing that.
Take it. But another way to look at it too is like think of it like a bow and arrow. For it to launch forward, I first got to pull it back.
Yes, I've heard that one before.
And when I pull it back, it's giving it the energy it needs, the force it needs. And so but I think the way to embrace that is to realize it's not failure. It's not negative. It's not bad. One of my favorite Bible verses is Romans 8:28. All things, God causes all things to work together for our good. And so for me, when I look at that, to me, everything, I have the opposite of paranoia. It's called pronoia. It means I believe there's a vast conspiracy in the earth set up to benefit me. So everything is working for my good, always.
Yeah. We have the same belief. We refer to it a little bit differently in those words, that very similar mindset. So this leads me to my next question, which I think is aligned with this. So I know that you talked about this quite a bit and about shifting out of survival mindset. So what are some mindset shifts you believe are essential to step into purpose?
This is really, really good. I think one, really what we just talked about is that everything's working for your good, right? So
Yeah.
regardless of what it looks like, it's always working together for your good. So believing that and shifting to that mindset takes you to the next, which is abundance versus scarcity. There is more for me than there is against me. There is more available than there is restricted. And so I think the first one is all things work together for my good. Second, abundance. And I think the third is see yourself as a student, not an expert. Experts, when they mess up, they crash out. Like, because I'm supposed to be right. This is my plan. I said in 5 years, I was going to be here. I was going to do this. But when you see yourself as a student, every day I'm learning. Every day I'm growing. Every day I'm developing. And as a result of that, I don't have to allow myself to get stuck, to get stagnant, to get mad because I'm a student. So I'm learning. And I would say the fourth to really grow, develop is recognizing that you're in competition with yesterday's version of yourself. You're always going to get messed up when you start competing with other people because often you're comparing your practice footage to their highlight reel. And the challenge with that is that those are not going to be two fair comparisons. And
Mhm.
so comparison, I think, is one of the worst things that happens. And especially in social media, it's easy to look at somebody else's post and say, look, well, he got thousands of looks and then thousands of views and I only have five. I mean, but it's easy to get involved in comparison, but the comparison is one of the worst things you could do because you don't know the price they had to pay. You don't know the journey they're in. You don't know the reality of all of that. Especially in a social media world, people have to pose to post. So this means you don't even know how much of that is reality in the first place. Best thing to do is compete with yesterday's version of yourself. So I'm so busy fighting me that I don't have time to fight anybody else because I'm fighting my Thursday me is fighting my Wednesday me.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. It's really unfair to, compare yourself to someone who's been doing it for so much longer.
Right.
Um, and to talk about what you mentioned before about the whole butterfly concept and, just having faith in the unknown. I'm going through a season in my life right now where I'm just letting go and I'm knowing that everything is truly working out for my good. And it's a really scary place to be, but it's also a really incredible place to be because there's so many things off our radar screen that we can't even imagine that God or the universe are conspiring for us. So I love that point that you made. You talk about evolving. So, what role does mindset play in helping someone embrace change instead of resisting it? I feel like so many people resist change because it's unfamiliar.
Yep. Yep. Everybody loves talking about it though. I want to do something new. I want to do new things, change. It's a new month, new season. It's fall, it's summer, it's this, it's that. Everybody loves talking change. Right. But nobody likes changing. And I think the reality is this is that either change will manage you or you will manage it. but only one of those things can be true. And what I mean by managing change, if you let it manage you, then every day something's uncertain, something's unknown. You get freaked out, you frazzle. Oh my God, this is not what I planned. Oh my God, no, oh my God. Or you manage it in the sense of I'm expecting things not to be the same. I'm expecting that something's going to be different, and I roll with the punches. I control what I can, and what I can't control, I realize that that's something that's above my pay grade. Let me leave that. Let me leave that alone. One of the stories I think about in my own life after building the business you just heard me talk about, at 21, one, that was an amazing accomplishment, amazing feat, simultaneously in ministry. But over the weekend, that industry collapsed, not just our company, the industry collapsed. So I remember I was on a Saturday, I was watching the news, and I saw federal agents walking out of the building of one of the lenders that we use, and there were boxes. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's good. That's awful. So on Monday, I called to my rep at that bank who we use. We did a lot of business in Southern California. And so I called to him and I said, Mark, what's going on? He said, oh, it's over. The bank is insolvent. I said, that's really unfortunate for that branch. He said, no, the bank. I said, that's really unfortunate for the Southern California region of the bank. He said, no. And, the bank, it doesn't matter because it's the bank's closed. Any bank was the bank. He said, no, it's over. The bank is insolvent. The bank is, it's over. I said, well, what about all the business and the deals that we have with you guys? We have millions of dollars of deals in the pipeline with you all. What's going to happen? He said, I don't know what to tell you, but it's over. And I remember the cascading of events. And so I went from producing more money in 1 month than most people produce in a decade to saying, what are we going to do? And so true to the principles that I teach and the principles I believe, it's one thing to talk it, it's another thing to have to walk it. Like it's easy to encourage people when you're not the one that needs the encouragement. It's easy to encourage people. You can make it through this valley until you're in the valley. So this valley hits, right? So I've got all of these people. I've got a brand new office that we just opened. I've got staff, I've got team simultaneously. I'm in ministry and I'm wondering, how am I even here? Like I have done everything I'm supposed to do, not perfect by any means, but I've done the right things. How did I get here? And I realized that the greatest place in order for you to get a grace for something is to have to go through the gutter that comes with that. And what I mean by that is in that I went through some things that I never thought I'd have to go through. I never thought I'd have to lay people off and have to shut down offices and all of that. And I'm like, what's going on? But I learned so many valuable principles in that. And I embraced the fact that things are changing and I can either let this run me or I can run it. I can either embrace the fact that this is Monday is not going to be the same way it was on Friday. Friday we left, we were sitting on top of the world. Monday, lots got to change. And it changed so quickly. And so much of it was uncontrollable. So what I did, back to mindset, is I said, what are the things I can't control? What are the things that I can't control? How do I need to pivot? And I literally systematically just began to navigate through the change. And on the other side of that came out bigger, better, stronger. And I learned so many principles that I put in my first book called Making Money Moves, The Art of Getting Your Finances in Order, that I never would have learned had I not gone through that process. And on the other side, I came out, but I came out a debt-free version of me. So I learned how to build and build with no debt, which was something that was just an amazing lesson. So whether it's business or ministry or whatever, I learned principles going through change that I never would have experienced without that change.
Wow, that is an insane story. And can't imagine how much this difficult period or season in your life has really tested those principles. What are some additional mindset shifts that you had to implement on your journey?
This is good. Look at your weakness as a superpower. Whatever you think is a weakness, flip that thing and reverse it. And so, I'm a very structured person. I've been like that since I was a kid. Like I was probably the only kid that like his desk was super organized. Everything had a place. Like, I just always been different. And sometimes the regimen, the routine, the rigidity of that, can sometimes be looked at as a weakness. I flipped it and used it as a superpower because during transition and change, it allows me to keep a sense of calm and peace around me. So I always believe in that principle. Another mindset shift is really recognizing the expectations that we have of people, modifying the expectations of the people around us, predicated upon what they've demonstrated they can produce. And here's why that's important with change. when you're in the midst of change, the people around you are also in the midst of change. And so everybody's got a lot of change going on. Everybody's not you. And so I had to learn, I learned this, that everybody's not going to handle it like me. Some people, don't handle change. They don't handle shift well. I learned shift happens. So since shift happens, what I got to do is I have to now look at who's around me and make sure I maintain an environment of people who can adapt the mindset, of people who can walk and work with the mindset, and then adjust my expectations of people. One of the greatest things that happen and happens in any time of change is that you get to see what the people around you are really made of and where they need to be placed in your life. Some people, it's not that they need to be out of your life. You just need to put them in a different seat in your life. But business, it's not that some people need to be removed from the business. They're just in the wrong seat in the business. Shifting your mindset to say, let me examine not just me, but let me examine the people around me so that I make sure I've got my team, whatever that might look like, playing to their strengths instead of playing to their weaknesses. Because everybody doesn't have the ability to just come on, tough it out. Some people don't know how to tough it out. Some people's idea of toughing it out is making issues for you. So really making, being aware of that team. And if I was to say one more mindset shift, is really embracing the fact that if you don't have haters, you don't have elevators. And so embracing the fact that in shift, in change, in life, you're going to have some people who may not like what you do, have an opinion. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got something to say. I don't look at that as a negative thing. I look at those as elevators. So if nobody's talking about you, you must not be that good at anything. If nobody has something negative or critical to say, you must not be doing that good at it, because whenever you're excellent at something, that typically is offensive to average people. So I embrace that. I don't look at that as a negative thing.
I love everything you said. I resonated with it very deeply. And I've heard this quote about how when God is ready to level you up in your life and go through change, he shows you the heart of all of the people around you so you know who to take with you and who to love from afar. You also talk about this really, really powerful concept, sins of the father. How does generational patterns impact us? And then how can we break free from them?
Oh my God. That's so that now this is like one of my favorite subjects to talk about, because so basically the concept of that book, the opening story, is actually about my stepfather. My stepfather, there's a movie about the life of it's a biography. Some of it was not, I didn't actually have it, but in the life of Tina Turner. The movie's called What's Love Got to Do with It? And Ike Turner, y'all familiar with that movie or familiar with her? Okay. So Ike Turner, womanizer, abuser, drug addict. Well, that was my stepfather. So watching that movie was watching my stepfather in many ways and seeing a lot of the life that we experience and that we live. And he was a man that never met his biological father, yet he ended up being just like him. So the opening story of the book, Sins of the Fathers, is actually about him. I changed the names to protect the innocent and the guilty, but it is about him. And the simple principle is that there are generational patterns of error that are passed down and around. You typically don't have to look too far, 3 to 4 generations back, to be able to see what a person is dealing with, what's in them, what they're confronting, what they're battling, what's around them. And the concept of being a curse breaker, curse just means an empowerment to fail. It's not a spooky, weird thing. It just means this is something that all the women in this family have done, all the men in this family have done, or, vice versa. All the people in this community, all the people in this environment. This is something that has been systemic. It's been a pattern, and it becomes easy to think it's right because you've never seen different. It becomes easy to think, well, this is how I'm supposed to be, because you were never exposed to different. And the quote is this: whatever you behold, you become. So the whole concept of that book is being a curse breaker, that just because this is what I experienced and beheld, that I've got the power and the ability to break this. So maybe it was lack. You can break that. You don't have to continue that. Maybe it was dysfunctional relationships. So all you saw was dysfunction and people who tolerated one another but didn't love one another, thinking, well, this is just the way it's supposed to be. No, You're the interruption to the dysfunction in your bloodline, in your community, in your family, whatever that might be. And that is a principle I had to live out. I saw a stepfather and I said, I can't be that man. When I met my biological father, I said, I can't be that man. So the man I am is really a man that I built. I took different pieces of, I like that from him. I like that from him. I like that from him. I do not like that from him. I do not like that from him. I took different pieces and really stitched these different pieces together to build a man that I believed would have the capacity and the ability to navigate through life. And that book to me is one of my favorite subjects to talk about because whether people know it or not, everybody, I don't care, black, white, tall, short, everybody is dealing with some level of that, either consciously or subconsciously. And it's not until it's pointed out that you say, wow, and until somebody questions you, you'll think, well, this is just the way that life is supposed to be. But then you were born. I was born. We were born. The interruption to the dysfunction is born. And that's where that book came from. And but that pattern and the principle of that, oh my God, it's life changing. I'm the first bishop, first pastor, first PhD, first to achieve certain levels of financial achievement, first, you name it. And that's the whole concept. I don't say that braggadociously or arrogantly or like that. That's the concept is that you're going to be the pioneer in your bloodline to do what hasn't been done before.
Oh my gosh, I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am to hear that message because I think this is true for both Samantha and I. Both of us would agree that we're the first in our family as well. And so we definitely have that in common. And this is very true for me. I feel like I'm third generation. And in the beginning stages of my early adulthood life, I started repeating some of those same patterns that the women in my family attracted the same partners and
Mhm.
noticed those things and took a drastic it was a pivotal moment in my life and took drastic measures to make changes in my life to turn that around, right? So for someone who might be in that position, what would you say to them? How did they try to recognize those patterns and what should they try to pursue to change their life around?
Yeah, I love that. I would say one, it's really simple to find. First of all, awareness. Awareness is the biggest deal because it becomes normal until it's not normal. It becomes right until someone says there's another way. And so, especially if that's just what you knew, that's just what you grew up around. And so I think one, just the awareness of the principle. Two, I'll make it alliterate awareness. And then two, I would say begin to articulate and to audit the lives of the people around you and say, okay, where does everybody have challenges? And is there a pattern here? Is there a pattern here? Like, what's the pattern? And when you find, it's like, y'all remember Silly Rabbit Tricks Are for Kids?
Yeah.
It's like, let me find the pattern because there's a trick going on here. Like there's a pattern going on here. And if I can I can find the pattern, then I can interrupt it. I can break it. I can say, wait a minute, this thing that's worked effectively at the generations before me or people around me, this thing is attempting to work in me, on me, in my life. So let me audit it. Let me begin to articulate that. And then finally, I would simply say, once you are able to audit it, then you have to begin to alter your behaviors and say, all right, this has to be different for me. I have to do different. You want different, you do different. I say this often live, learn, then live better. The purpose of learning isn't just to have notebooks full of notes, not to just have an Evernote full of notes or whatever you use full of notes. The purpose of learning is so that you actually use it to do something. One principle that you apply is better than 100 principles that you just know.
Yeah, that's really true. If you read one thing, implement those principles and then watch your life change. So that's really great advice. This is a really powerful question for me to ask. How do you know the difference between your desires or something that's trying to take you off your path and your purpose and your actual true calling from God?
Oh my goodness, this is really good. This has been like the theme of all my conversations today. So I love this. I love how that happens. I think a couple of things. One, calling is discovered. I believe, and I could give you several scriptural examples, but I'll just give you two. Let's go Elisha. Elisha's herding the ox. That's the family business. And in the Hebrew culture, when you weren't good enough to apprentice a rabbi, they would say, go and do your father's trade. So the fact that he's doing his father's trade ox herding. That's a family business. This means that he had already tried the typical religious route. Didn't work for him. They said, go back, do your father's business. This is true too about the 12 that Jesus recruited, right? They were all found doing their family businesses, fishing, tax collection. All of these things were family businesses, which means they had tried the typical route and were told, you're not cut out for this. Go back and do that. So when Jesus says to them, come, take my yoke upon you. My yoke is easy. My burden's light. This is why these men would drop everything they were doing. These were the words they were waiting to hear their entire lives. They were like, bingo, I've been waiting to hear this my whole life. So you go to Elisha. He's ox herding. He thinks this is what he's supposed to do. There's some good principles in that. You learn consistency. You learn discipline. You learn teamwork. You learn how to lead people. Ox are a special designation of cattle. They could carry more than their counterparts. You would yoke or connect two oxen together with a wooden yoke. And so if one got tired, the other one could pick up the slack for the other one. He was like the last set of those oxen. And Elijah comes by, throws his mantle on him, and says, come on, let's go. And he says to Elijah, so we'll call him S and J so that nobody gets mixed up. So Elisha says, well, let me go kiss my mother and father goodbye. Let me go kiss them goodbye, and then I'll come follow you. And Elijah says, Jay says something crazy. He says, again? What have I done to you? Now, I always thought that was the craziest line to say because essentially he was saying, this isn't my first time giving you this same opportunity. You missed it before. If you miss it now, there may not be another opportunity. He drops what he's doing, but watch what he has time to do. He burns his plow so that he can't go back to what he used to do, which I think is a very powerful principle about callings. Callings always require sacrifice. I have to burn something so that something else can live. I have to give, and what is sacrifice? It's not a dirty word. Sacrifice is giving up what I want now for what I want most. It's all sacrifice is. And everything in life is sacrifice. If you want to have a good body, yada, yada, you're going to have to sacrifice. You have to give up what you want now. You might want that cookie, you might want that donut, whatever. You have to give up what you want now for what you want most. He begins to burn the plow. Then they have a going away party. And then he finally goes to follow him. Here's the principle. As he's pursuing his assignment, his calling, everything in that journey was a part of the process to get him there. Once he starts serving Jay, he doesn't stop there. He then eventually replaces Jay. His calling was something that was progressive. And I think for everybody to understand, it's not like I'll do this one thing and I fulfill my calling. Da, 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 da. That's not it. It's progressive. And I think allowing the journey is the call, not just the destination. And so that's why, I know people use the word destiny a lot. I'm not a huge fan of the word destiny only because it implies a destination. So everybody's in search of a destination. Like when I get here, I'm good. When I get here, I'm good. Not so. When you get there, now where are we headed next? When you get there, now where are we headed next? When you get there, where are we headed next? How do you know you're dealing with a distraction versus a calling? I think the reality is sometimes it's going to be in the midst of that journey that you'll recognize this isn't actually bringing me, it's not utilizing me. I am not fulfilled even though, and I want to make this distinction because some people think I'm supposed to feel good when I'm doing my calling. Not always. Sometimes when you're doing what you're calling created to do, you will have human moments where you're like, I don't want to do this. Elijah, the whole reason he goes and gets Elisha is because he said, I am done. I am over this. I am ready to give up. Jezebel just threatened my life. I am ready to be done. But he gets up and he keeps it moving. So is this utilizing me? Is this drawing me closer to God? Is this giving me an opportunity to use everything in? And I think at the end of the day, is this something that is making me better or is it making me bitter? Is it making me grow or is it making me stagnant? And it becomes easy to delineate between the two, but sometimes you don't know. There's lots of things that I thought were distractions that were actually a part of my journey, that were part of my calling, part of my development. Because there's something I needed to learn, I needed to get out of that stage, out of that process in my journey, which goes back to those 4 mindset shifts. Everything works together for my good. So even if I make a mistake, even my mistakes work for my good.
I loved what you said about sacrifice because I think discipline comes into play, right? You need to be disciplined and you need to organize your life in a disciplined way. Because without that, it's all chaos. And unless you set your intention, how is your life supposed to unfold when you're not sure what your goals are and where attention should flow? I think that was wonderful advice. But for someone who feels like they might be disqualified from their true purpose because of their past, what recommendation would you have for them?
Oh my God, you got a pulse, there's still a plan. It's just that simple. Like, I think one of the worst things that we could do is think that perfection is a prerequisite for purpose. It's not. It's to think that doing everything right. In fact, I've discovered that the most purposeful people and people who fulfill greatest purpose, I love your use of the term true purpose, are people who have the greatest problems. You name me a person. If you want to go Bible, we can go Bible. You want to go non-Bible, we can go non-Bible. You name them. Like David was a whole liar. He had a lot of issues. He had a lot of challenges. Peter was a denier. Noah had issues with drinking. You want to keep going down the list? Like everybody. Martha was worried. Mary was too focused on other things. Like we could go down the list. And at the end of the day, there is no prerequisite of perfection. In fact, your past was preparation. And one of the greatest things I learned, I remember I was at a certain point in ministry, I became very judgmental of people. I'm like, I can't believe these people would do this. And I can't believe these people would do this. I can't believe these people would do this. And a lot of things that I would judge people for later on, I found myself doing. And I was like, how did I get here? And it was the greatest place to be because it gave me an empathy and another perspective to say that life and life can happen to anybody and everybody. And the reality is we all have past, we've all made mistakes. And here's the fact, you're going to make more mistakes. You're going to have more. I don't care how much you pray and fast and get principles and all of that. It's human. We're human. So we're going to err. What is superhuman is to take that mistake and turn it into a message, to take a test, turn it into a testimony, take a valley, turn it into a victory. And I think that's the real power of leveraging that. Your past doesn't disqualify you. It's actually what gives you value in the first place.
Yes, I always say that your mess is your message and you're qualified to serve the person you were. So, all of those challenges and those struggles that you went through is only refining you and building you into the person you're supposed to be.
Yep. I love that. There's this gold or this art it's called kintsugi. Kintsugi. I've been trying to say that and I got it. I got it with y'all. I said it right the first time with y'all. I've been misquoting that word all week. Kintsugi. So what happens is that they make this pottery, ceramic, make it, put in the kiln, paint it, looks gorgeous. Then they break it. And when they break it, you say, why would they break it? When they break it, they literally will put it back together. But in every place where it's broken, they use gold in the seams, in the cracks, in the crevices. So now the broken places actually become the strongest places, but they also become the most valuable places. If we look at our lives through those lenses, there's so much revelation there because the places where we've made mistakes, the places where we've had challenges, the places where we've had issues, that's actually where we're strongest and also where we bring the most value.
Yeah, I think the Japanese believe that it gives it character, it adds
Mm.
beauty, and it makes it even more wonderful than before being broken. And I couldn't agree more with that. I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I have seen it, but I didn't know the name of it until I was recording a show last week, and he mentioned it, and I said, "Oh, I've seen that all the time," but I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know the story behind it. And that principle, I think, echoes perfectly for anybody with a past. To me, if you don't have a past, you really don't. If you don't know where you've been, you have no clue to know where you're at, and you really don't know where you're going.
I know that you've built leaders who disrupt the norm. So, what mindsets do you look for in someone who is ready to rise into leadership?
Oh my goodness. Number one, resilience, the ability to bounce back. If you panic and you can't like bounce back quickly, that's not like, I mean, think of sports, like all the balls have to be, inflated. You got to bounce back. Got to have some resilience. I mean, you can't just deflate and give up because things didn't go right. So I look for resilience. Number two, I look for a relentless work ethic. I look for the people who get there first and leave last. I don't look for the people who it's 5:01. Everybody have a great day. Not to say that, if things are done, things are done. But like for people who have a strong, relentless work ethic that like to get things done, I think that's important. And I would say thirdly, I look for a mindset of an individual that is always, really looking to grow. I look for students. back to another principle. I look for people who are students, because at the end of the day, there's a parable, and I'll mess it up, and essentially just says, if you think that the cup's already full, if the cup thinks it's already full, you can't pour into it. Something to that effect. You probably know it better than I do, but I think it's the same principle. If people think that there's nothing they can learn, they know everything, they do a lot of talking. Normally, I'm like, this person's not going to work well because they want to show up and throw up. And back in sales, we used to say, if you show up and throw up, you're doing all of that. And your customer who you need to be serving, you've ignored them because you just wanted to impress them with what you knew. And so in sales, you need to ABC, always be closing. And you're not closing because you won't close your mouth. And so I look at that same principle for leaders, is that a great leader is a student. They're there to learn. They're not there to just talk, 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 talk. They want to learn, they want to grow, and you see it. And you see it produced in what they do. When I see those principles, I pour. When I see people where my counsel isn't heeded, my instructions aren't followed, we have a track record. We began to track how many new 6 and 7 figure earners we produce. So knowing that, I know that if you follow what I'm telling you it works because I got fruit, I've got track records, I have the data that says this will work for you. And so when I find somebody that just wants to tell me everything that they know, I just say, okay, well, great. You know a lot. That's great. Let me know that works out.
I love that concept. You should absolutely be a listener and a student at all times. It shows goodwill as well as you're always learning, right? And evolving. We've talked about this throughout the whole podcast. We're always evolving, and you should be open to that. I know you're hosting the upcoming History Makers Conference. What can people expect? And why is this conference so timely?
Oh my goodness. So it's going to be great. It's going to be right here in Atlanta. It is, as I mentioned, we moved our headquarters from Denver to Atlanta, and we are still in the pre-launch phase for the location here as we close on the little campus here. But in that, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be days that are packed with knowledge, information, empowerment, and both practical and spiritual, which is really important to me. I think sometimes people either they're so practical that there's no spiritual component, or they're so spiritual that there's no practical component. For me, I like to marry both worlds. There's a scripture, Revelation 5:10, that says he's made us kings and priests, spiritual and successful. It's not either or, it's both and. I don't have to choose this or that. I'm this and that. And so this is exactly what that's going to do. And so our whole theme this year has been our history making year. And during that event, people can find out more about it at bishopforeman.com, Foreman.com. And that whole theme of that is to produce people that make history in the 7 spheres of society: arts and entertainment, business, education, government, media, and education. And so in that, there's going to be empowerment. There's going to be vendors that can help people, business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, no matter where you're at in life, you'll be given both the practical and the spiritual tools to walk away and go do something with it. Like that's my whole thing, like do something. And so that's going to be exciting. That's coming up. That's October 16th, 17th, 18th. It's exciting because this is my 19th year as a senior pastor. And November will be my 19th year as a bishop, which is essentially a pastor to pastors. And, but it'll also be my birthday. And so, yes, my birthday is on the 18th. So we'll be celebrating it during that time. So it's going to be an amazing time, but people can get registered. It's going to be amazing. We even changed the title of it, not just from being a conference, but to revival. And that's not just a spiritual thing. That's something for your day-to-day, everyday life, for your business. No matter what you do, you're going to walk away with the tools as well as the inspiration and motivation to go make history. That's what I'm about.
That's so exciting. It sounds like such a fabulous conference. And anyone listening to this, I mean, we go to conferences all the time, and it really is about the people and the connections that you make, and the inspiration you take, and then the action from it too. Sounds like it's going to be amazing. And to wrap this up, for someone listening to this who feels really stuck, if they're in survival mode, what is one bold step that they can take today to step into that new transformation?
I think if anything, do the hard thing. Um, Sometimes, there's the school of thought that says, just do a lot of things that you can do real quickly. But I think many times you leave, if I was to use a Bible example, if you go fight the Philistines and you leave Goliath out there, you think you've really done a lot when really, if you would have taken Goliath down, the Philistines would have scattered. David took down the big thing, the Goliath, and the Philistines, all the soldiers ran. I say for anybody, the hard thing, the thing you've been procrastinating about, the thing you've been, I'm going to do it later. I don't want to do it. I've been putting on. Do the hard thing. And when your concept becomes do the hard thing, once I do the hard thing, everything else is easy. So for some today, we talked about evolution. We've talked about mindset shifts. We talked about resilience. We talked about breaking generational patterns of dysfunction. All of that may seem like a hard thing, but do the hard thing and do it now. What you delay, you often deny yourself of. And so what I've learned is just do it, do the hard thing, do it now, don't delay. Because at the end of the day, what if the life you've dreamed of is on the other side of the delay you're putting on and that you're taking? So do the hard thing and do it now.
That is amazing advice. Yeah, it's so important to push past that comfort zone. So many of us like to sit in comfort, but I love what you just said to sit that your success could be just right on the other side of that comfort.
My phone says do it now. The background is do it now, do it now, do it now. Yeah, it says that.
That is crazy. I love that. Oh, wow. That is awesome. I love that.
Amazing advice. And so
Yes.
to wrap this up, we're going to do a really quick this or that challenge.
Let's
No
go.
overthinking. Just the first thing that comes to mind. Are you
Okay.
ready?
Let's go. I'm ready.
All right. So preaching or writing,
Preaching.
Early mornings or late nights.
Late nights.
in-person ministry or digital reach,
Digital reach.
Visionary thinking or practical execution.
Practical execution.
and a really easy one, coffee or tea.
Coffee.
Mountains or beach.
Beach.
Those are our last two as well. We love coffee and the beach. So, well, this has been such an amazing episode. I cannot wait to re listen to this because you had so many nuggets of gold. And I'm sure our listeners are going to love this. We'll link all of your information in the
Oh,
show
awesome.
notes. And yeah, we're really excited to see how your conference goes and what you're going to be up to in the future because you're changing so many lives. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies, so much for having me. You all keep going because you're literally doing what the name of this show is. You're lighting up the lives of people. So I just salute you for doing what you're doing and being used as vessels to empower people. So keep going.
Thank you so much for that. That was
My pleasure.
wonderful.
Yes.
My
We're
pleasure.
sending you all so much love and light.